better. He's a very committed guy. I mean, we all have it, right? At work and in our lives. Guys you see and they pick up your own energy. He's like that for our coaching staff at least. You walk in the gym, you see him. He's upbeat, he's ready to go, he works hard, he brings an energy every day. Those are the guys you want in your organization. Those are the guys you can build good teams around. He's still young. He still makes some mistakes, make me want to pull out the little hair I have left. But I love his approach. He went a lot of minutes tonight. I thought he played them well. Yeah, I was happy with him.
Welcome, everybody, to the Lakers Legacy, where, Tommy, I only have one question to ask you, my friend. You down with KCP?
Yeah, you know me.
You down with KCP?
Yeah, you know me.
You down with KCP?
Yeah, you know me.
Yeah, it's lit.
Yeah.
Okay, we're here.
God.
Lakers just signed Kentavious Caldwell Pope to 1 year, $18 million, and we don't know how to compose ourselves. The Lakers finally did something, and this just goes to show you, well, for one thing, the Lakers got really lucky because this wouldn't have happened if Stan Van Gundy hadn't renounced KCP. They hadn't traded for Avery Bradley. A bunch of different things had to happen for this to occur for the Lakers, for lightning to strike. And it happened because the Lakers were patient. Patience is a virtue. They did not sign stupid dudes. And you got to give them props, even though they lucked into this. And I'm just super excited. I can't remember the last time I was this excited about some rando dude. Even though it might be a 1 year rental, this guy's only 24, presents the perfect combination of young upside and helps the team right now because the Lakers want to be competitive. They want to show Paul George, LeBron James that they have a team that can play some actual basketball, and this goes a long way in doing that in terms of giving Lonzo Ball the prototypical 3-and-D type shooting guard that he can pass to. And yeah, I'm just super excited. Can you remember the last time that you were this excited for like a random signing? Because the Lakers have not done well in free agency since Shaq, pretty much.
Yeah, we've done horribly. I wouldn't say since Shaq, but we've done horribly, especially in the post-Dwight Howard years. I would say the last time I was like even remotely optimistic about a signing that we had post Dwight was maybe Jody Meeks because he was a young player. He was a shooting guard. He had just come off like a couple big seasons. Not big seasons, I shouldn't say, but he was young and he had come off some pretty good seasons for a first 2 year player with Philly. And we were plugging him into D'Antoni's system. So I was like, oh, there's some upside there, but nothing like nearly close to this caliber.
Yeah, exactly. I think for me, it would be the Swaggy P signing 1 year mid-level exception during a really down year when the rest of our signings were like Chris Kaman and that infamous Chris Kaman Photoshop on Dwight Howard's face started that whole trend. But yeah, man, this is objectively a great signing. Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson's first real home run here. I'm going to call him Kentavious Caldwell Hope because that's what he provides our team this season. Even if it's just 1 year, he is going to convert many a Laker fan, whether that's converting 3-point shots or just converting them in general to throw down the analytics and just view this as what it is, which is a great, great signing for a player with high potential, high upside. And by the way, he is also under Rich Paul, LeBron James' agent. So there might be something to that. There might be some back channel talk here, and this could go a long way into figuring out how to, if they want to keep Kentavious Caldwell Pope, fit in LeBron James and Paul George because of that connection. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But Tommy, where were you when this news broke? Such a random night.
Yeah, such a random night. I was sitting down at the gym trying to, get my body lit for this season. and just sitting down trying to sign up for a new membership, and all of a sudden I got like a bunch.
As you were signing up for the gym membership, Kentavious Caldwell Pope was also signing up for his Lakers membership. Hey!
There you go. So I'm like sitting down and I'm like not really paying attention, and then all of a sudden I look at my phone and I'm like, whoa, I have like 8 messages, and I'm like clicking through, and it's all like you texted me and like a bunch of my work friends texted me, and everybody was like, we got him. And my work friends tend to jump the gun sometimes, so I was like kind of skeptical, but when you send stuff, you tend to like support it with a Twitter link, which I appreciate. So a bunch of my work friends, like I saw their messages first and they're like, whoa, the Lakers got Kentavious Caldwell Pope. And I was like, did you just read the rumors from today? Are you like 8 hours delayed? Or what's that? And then I saw your message and I was like, oh crap, it happened. I was shocked. I was shocked. Yeah. I did not think it was good. I thought we had a chance. I didn't think it was going to happen today.
Right. We thought initially that the Lakers are going to try and clear some more cap room or cap space for him because, initial reports were, okay, they're going to give him the same deal they gave Dion Waiters, George Hill, 1 year, $17 million, but we already saw that he's turned down more money from that in a multi-year deal, so maybe he'd want $20 million at least. So maybe they're trying to ship off an asset with Corey Brewer, or even try and ship off Jordan Clarkson now because they know they're going to have Kentavious Caldwell Pope. But hey, it just looks like he decided to settle on $18 million or $17 million, 17.7, I believe, and that's that. Deal done. Yeah, great job for the Lakers. It's been a long time since I saw like a Brian Windhorst, like Mark Stein, Adrian Wojnarowski, Lakers sign tweet that's actually good, not like, oh no, Mozgov 4 years, oh dang, what is going on, So for this one, it was really surreal. I was on my way to get some Tapioca Express, passion fruit green tea. As I was about to leave my car, check my phone one last time, and there it was, the tweet, and I was like, oh snap! And then I couldn't concentrate. I was busy the next 10 minutes just like forwarding all this stuff to you, and then pressuring you into getting on this emergency podcast with me tonight. And here you are. So, so let's talk about this move a little bit. And I feel bad for Alex Caruso, because KCP totally stealing his thunder. We haven't even gotten to talk about Ruso Mania, but I'm sure we'll bring him in for a training camp invite and hopefully sign him to like a minimum contract or whatever. But
yeah, there's still space for him.
Yeah. Tonight is all about KCP. I know Eric Pincus right now is talking about how the Lakers may have to do some cap maneuvering with regards to Thomas Bryant, and they might even have to waive David Nwaba, which would be unfortunate. I don't really know right now.
Yeah. No, so I think just as my impression, and don't take this as like gospel, but my impression of what Pincus was saying was that the deal is actually 1 year, $18 million flat, like it's being reported. They're going to have to waive Nwaba because he's non-guaranteed, but if he clears waivers, they can re-sign him for the minimum again.
Okay.
But it could easily be that the deal is 1 year, 17.7 or whatever we had, 17.6, whatever we had to offer, and the agent rounded up when he released the information, just because 18 looks better, obviously, than 17.6. Sure. So.
Okay, cool. So there's still hope there. But I guess my question now to you is, what does this mean for the Lakers in terms of I know you had a theory in terms of the Jordan Clarkson angle. Look, we knew Jordan Clarkson was already gone, right? We already knew he was gone. But now bringing Kentavious Caldwell Pope in, that almost means, well,
he's extra gone.
He's extra gone, and maybe sooner than we thought. So if you want to talk about that implication.
No, absolutely. So I think Jordan Clarkson, as we've talked about multiple times on this show, has to leave before the end of the season. The question was, and again, I give the Lakers management a good amount of props for this because they didn't freak out. Like at some point they were going to have to get rid of Clarkson. If you were wondering why are they chasing veteran guards, we have like a bunch of guards. Why, a point guard I can see. Why do we need a shooting guard? We have Clarkson. No, they knew they had to get rid of Clarkson to pursue this 2 maximum plan that they wanted to pursue. And so it was just a matter of time of when Clarkson was going to be traded for nothing, because obviously he has 3 more years guaranteed. So it was a matter of time. It was either going to be during the season this year, after the season. And one thing that the reason that they weren't doing it, as of today and anyway, is because our only other guards on the roster currently are David Nwaba and Josh Hart. And obviously both of those guys are very young. Josh Hart's a rookie. Nwaba is like essentially a rookie in my eyes because he didn't really play a full season last year. And you can't just roll into the season with those two guys as your two guards, especially if you're starting a 19-year-old point guard. So it always made sense to hold on to Clarkson as long as you need it, and always have that chip in like in your pocket and just be like, okay, look, we're not going to do anything stupid. We're not going to, go out there and sign Ben McLemore to a 1-year, $19 million deal if we don't have to, or 1-year, $17 million deal if we don't have to, just because we have Jordan Clarkson here, worst case scenario. We'll make our run at George Hill. We'll make our run at Deion Waiters. We'll make our run at KCP, like guys that would be upgrades over Clarkson. But we're not just going to give anybody a 1-year, $19 million because we have Clarkson sitting here. So now that we have a legitimate starting caliber 25-year-old two-way shooting guard who's on a 1-year expiring deal exactly like we need, we can be so much more aggressive with trading Jordan Clarkson now. And to your point, just to jump into this too, when you were talking about earlier today when we saw the rumors, we thought, oh, okay, well, they met with him and it sounds like it went well. So maybe now the next step is once they get KCP to commit, they move on to, okay, let's now try to find a home for Jordan Clarkson, swap him out for, an expiring contract.
Yep.
And maybe save $5-6 million that way and then up KCP's offer. The beauty of KCP accepting this 1 year, $18 million or whatever the exact number he accepted was, is now that he's accepted at that number, we don't have to rush into a Jordan Clarkson trade. We can literally just sit here and say, Jordan Clarkson is on the block. Send us your best offer. There are teams that could use a guy like Clarkson, teams that need a young combo guard who can give scoring off the bench. There aren't a lot of guys 25 years old who have proven at that level of efficiency that they can do that, at least offensively. So Jordan Clarkson has some value. I'm not saying we're definitely going to get a first-round pick, but even if we just get an expiring veteran contract, that could be valuable for us. So that's what we can do, and now we have gained this luxury because one thing, I was actually running through some hypotheticals with you today, and I was thinking in my head, man, if we can't make KCP wait the whole summer for this. So if we're trying to clear space for him now and we're trying to get rid of Clarkson now, we're going to get some real lowball offers. We just have to spring into a Clarkson trade and just boom, get rid of him right now.
Yep.
So the fact that this worked out as nicely as it did, and honestly, I don't know, we don't even have to trade Clarkson right now. We can literally just wait. If we actually do waive Nwaba or just carry 4 shooting guards, and then trade Clarkson whenever the right moment arises. The point is, getting KCP to commit at 1 year, 17.6 or whatever the final number ends up being, gives us so much flexibility to just wait now on Jordan Clarkson. We can trade him now and go into the season, be totally fine with our guard rotation. We can wait for the season, have a bench scorer in Clarkson, and then wait for the right moment to unload him. It's just there's so many possibilities. And so like you said, we kind of lucked into it, but again, props to them for being patient, and everybody freaked out that including me, to be honest, that with all these meetings with Rondo and all this and that we were going to rush into a horrible decision and, give Rondo $12 million of our space. And if we done something like that and made a rush decision, we got all these young, kind of like what happened last year in a way, right? So
right.
We have all these young guys, we better get some vets, let's be aggressive 12:01 midnight, on the first day and get all these guys signed up. We didn't do that. We stayed the course. We have our guys, on this pod, on this episode, on the show, we were complaining McLemore got signed for a reasonable deal. CJ Miles kind of got relatively reasonable money. A lot of guys seem to have been getting reasonable money. Ian Clark was still floating out there, and it seemed like we just weren't doing anything, but our patience paid off, and KCP became available, and, he and LeBron James share the same client, so I'm sure that didn't hurt share the same agent, so I'm sure that didn't hurt our chances, and here we are.
Here we are, and as we speak, Kentavious Caldwell Pope has changed his Twitter bio to shooting guard for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yes.
Oh man, that is so awesome. So let's actually just talk about Kentavious Caldwell Pope as an actual player and not just as a cap
Who is
figure.
this guy?
So this guy, I mean, if you look
plays
at
basketball,
his,
right?
he plays basketball, and if you're looking at the analytics and blah, 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 you might say, oh, he's okay. But if you actually watch this guy's tape, yeah, like I said in the last episode, you just search him up on YouTube. He's got multiple videos that say Kentavious Caldwell Pope locking down Steph Curry, locking down Klay Thompson, locking down PG-13, locking down James Harden. I mean, so on and so forth, locking down Kyrie Irving. And regardless of what the analytics say, that he still has stuff to work on, from what I've seen of the film, this is a guy that just like hustles, defends hard, and he's going to miss assignments. Yes, he's going to get beat off the dribble. Yes, like everybody is, especially when he's guarding the best player on each team every single night. Does he play in the East Coast? It's a little easier, yes, but no matter what, they stick him to the best guy, and he always gives his all, fights through screens, takes charges, gets strips, and this guy is really, really athletic. I just, the last few days I've been watching his highlight videos, and I never realized how athletic he was. He has this, LeBron James cock-back dunk that he always does in transition, where he just flies in the air. And his game is predicated mostly on catch and shoots, as opposed to Jordan Clarkson, who likes to dribble, hezzy pull-up or whatever. KCP is the type of guy curling off screens, just catching it and shooting it, and that's it. And people will look at his percentages, career 33% shooter, that's not great. Last year, 35% from three. 2 years ago, 34%. But here's what I have to say about the percentages. I don't care about the percentages as much because the volume with which he takes three-pointers and makes them is especially high. And if you look at the context of his team, where he has Andre Drummond and Reggie Jackson, guys who can't shoot, that's not a great team to be on if you're a shooter, like a pure shooter, This guy just keeps shooting nonetheless, and last year he averaged 2 makes a game. And then 2 years ago, 2 makes a game as well, when he averaged 34%, 35%. And just going off of the types of games, high volume 3-point games he's had this season, he's had an 8 for 11 from 3-point land game, a 7 for 15 3-point land game, a 6 for 8 game, a 5 for 9 game, a 5 for 8 game, a 5 for 10 game, and then multiple games where he's hit 4 threes a game. So for me, I don't care about the percentage as much. I think with Lonzo Ball and a better system, a better space system, with better shooters around him, I think he can easily up that percentage by 2 or 3 percentage points, and the volume will still be there. So that's why I'm not concerned with the analytics. And people forget that a guy like Rodney Hood, who people proclaim as this like crazy pure shooter, this guy is only averaged like 35%, 36% from three as well. What makes him a shooter is that he has a high volume of 3-point makes, and that's all he does. And guess what? This is mainly what KCP does. So I'm very intrigued by him. He has stuff to work on, obviously. He has to shore up his overall fundamentals on defense and probably team defense, but we haven't had a guy who tries this hard and hustles this hard and has like a strong base in a long time. You could say David Nwaba, but not a well-rounded guy like this in a long time. So what are your impressions of KCP as an actual player?
Yeah, I think KCP, and look, I put myself in the group of skeptics when the rumors first came out of like, oh, KCP turned down like a 5-year, $80 million. I can't remember. It was like an absurd number he turned down.
5-year.
From the Pistons. And I put myself in the group of skeptics when he became an unrestricted free agent. Like, yeah, I mean, look, we have this 1 year, $17 million, $17.6 million space to offer him. Does that necessarily mean it is the guy we should offer this to? Like, I'm not a Pistons fan, obviously. I watch 2 Pistons games a year when we play them. Okay, so I don't know anything about the Pistons, but every time I see them play, first of all, they're horrible to watch, but second of all, KCP is like wildly inconsistent in my experience. Sometimes he's just a complete ghost, offensively anyway, breaking wide open shots, whatever. I wasn't really sure about his defense, but like you, I started to look at the tape. I started to look at like the Twitter, what the Detroit like community thought about him in terms of like their beat writers and stuff like that, and just his reputation. And this guy was known as like a very, very solid defensive player, and from a guy in Stan Van Gundy who I wouldn't say he's like a fully defensive-minded coach, but he values defense. This isn't like a Mike D'Antoni situation. Stan Van Gundy cares a lot about defense, and KCP was the best defender on his team. And because of that, he got a ton of minutes despite his inconsistent shooting. KCP was averaging well over 30 minutes, I think, pretty much every year he's been in the league. So I'm really excited about his game. I think he's going to be doing a lot. Like, I saw some stat briefly on Twitter earlier. It was, I think, 47% of KCP's shot attempts are three-pointers. And like you said, that is almost as in, like, taking a higher percentage shot. Like, okay, you're shooting 35%. So what does that tell me? It tells me you're not Klay Thompson. Like, big deal. You know what I mean? Klay Thompson's not signing this deal. So 35%, but it's not like you're shooting 1 for 3. You're hitting, about 2 threes a game. You're taking almost all of your shots from 3. And those are important factors when you're replacing a guy, for example, in theoretically that could be in the starting lineup, like Jordan Clarkson, a guy who's taking a ton of, his bread and butter is like mid-range and getting to the rim. So you lose a little bit of getting to the rim maybe with KCP, but what we need is a guy who basically, like, what Lonzo had at UCLA, is just going to run in transition and spot up behind the three-point line and is no hesitation going to just be able to fire up threes. And this isn't like a Marcus Smart situation where this dude's shooting 28% and shooting it 5 times a game. He's still hitting 35%. He has a good stroke. He's 25. Like, there's upside there. I'm like, the more we talk about it, the more I'm excited about this signing.
Also, this guy, over the course of the season, has had some crazy blow-up games, like a 38-point career-high game, 33-point game, multiple high 20s games. And I saw something on Twitter just now that said KCP was a 40% three-point shooter before a shoulder injury last year, and after that he never recovered. And he got injured fighting through a hard screen. So he was a 40% shooter before that. There's actually a reason for why he had that dip. And so even looking at that, even more so, I'm just like, this guy is going to help a lot. Goes a long way in making the Lakers hopefully a 30-plus win team. And again, on the defensive end, I could give a rat's ass about the defensive, numbers, because our whole team has been crappy in that respect. And even if D'Angelo Russell has a higher defensive plus minus, or some rando like Jordan Clarkson has a higher defensive plus minus, we know that's all crap if we actually watch the tape and compare it. It's just the fact that KCP is guarding the toughest assignment every single night. He's going to get burned. These guys like James Harden or whatever are built to hit tough shots regardless of whether you're contesting. And with regards to KCP, he's a guy who more times than not will always close out. He'll always recover. Even if he gets beat, he's rushing to get there, unlike certain guys. So for me,
and yeah, well, and I just wanted to add to your point there, which is to say that analytics can be skewed in a lot of different ways, and a lot of different things that we don't fully understand can manipulate the data a little bit. So you can arrive at a sample where, like, okay, yeah, this analytic, like this metric that I'm using tells a very accurate story in 60% of the cases, but in 40% of the cases, it's completely off. These are the types of things we just don't fully understand. If anybody here follows Tom Zayas on Twitter, who I think is Pete's brother, I've never met him. It's Pete's brother, right? Okay, so Laker Film Room's brother, and he's like a podcast host as well. He has posted a bunch of stuff, I think, in the last couple of hours about how, just more like, not analytics, but just like hard, like raw data, like pass deflections, loose balls recovered, stuff like that that's actually like indicative of effort and hustle. And KCP measures very, very well in those types of metrics. So the fact that he is like, he in every single defensive analytic metric doesn't measure out so well. Watch tape of this fool and tell me once did you ever see in the last 3 years any player on the Lakers play like this? I've never seen it ever. And it's just like, it's small things like that can completely change a team's defensive makeup. Like, yes, we got better from, if you just to take this back a little bit to 2006, 2007-ish era Lakers, we made a huge leap from like being 2 years in a row the 7 seed to all of a sudden being the number 1 seed. And yes, okay, some of that was Andrew Bynum got really good. Some of that was we acquired Pau Gasol. Some of that was also we acquired Trevor Ariza, who was a lanky wing, extremely athletic, put a ton of effort in on the defensive end, and that becomes contagious. You know, like we always talk about Lonzo Ball's passing is going to be contagious, and we've kind of seen indications of that in the summer league. Having a guy out there on the perimeter who's hustling as much as Kentavious Caldwell Pope is going to be so contagious, and it's going to raise the level of everybody else playing around him.
He's going to be Contagious Caldwell Pope. Sorry.
He's going to be Contagious Caldwell Pope. And also, on top of that, it's not like a David Nwaba situation where you have to live with, okay, well, this guy's great, but he can't shoot. No, this guy can actually shoot, too.
Yep.
So he does all the things we want him to do in that starting guard spot next to Lonzo. And, like, honestly, I can't really think of anyone, because we don't really care next to Lonzo. Can this guy take it off the dribble? Can this guy house his passing out of the pick and roll? Like, we don't necessarily care about that. We need a guy out there who can defend and who can shoot. That's it.
Yep.
Because he's going to take off so much pressure off of Lonzo defensively. Lonzo's 6'7". He can guard shooting guards, and he'll be able to keep up with shooting guards as a rookie much, much easier than he'll be able to keep up with point guards. So Kentavious Caldwell Pope can step in. He's 6'5", great defender. He often guarded point guards in the East. He can take over, if not defend them the entire game, at least takes a lot of the burden off of 19-year-old Lonzo there.
Yep, agree. And to be clear, this guy's not like a JJ Redick type who he can't dribble the ball. This guy can dribble the ball, especially because he is very athletic. He's not like Jordan Clarkson in terms of shake and aggressiveness, but in terms of him being able to drive, him being able to handle the ball here and there, he can do that. I think that's probably why his percentage is so low, that he probably does too much of that in terms of one-on-one stuff. If he just cuts that off, just focuses on being more of a spot-up shooter next to Lonzo in a free-flowing offense, especially in transition, this guy is going to be so money in transition. This could not have been a better signing for the Lakers, and it just impedes us from doing so many other stupid stuff. I'm glad that huge chunk is there to impede us from doing anything else.
Yeah,
that's
seriously.
it. We're done. So let's quickly touch upon the Rondo factor, because initially we got both news at the same time today, and we were like, oh, what the hell? Like, it's the best of times, it was the worst of times.
Such a roller coaster.
Like, seriously, diametrically opposed, two things that were so diametrically opposed. But now that we got the order of events to happen in this way, I don't care anymore. Sure, sign Rondo for the room exception of $4 million. I still would prefer them not to, and for them to use that $4 million on someone who could actually help, now that we actually have a semi-looking competitive team in the West. I don't know if Rondo necessarily helps us to, bump that win percentage up by even like 1 or 2 wins. I think there might be a better player out there. But even if they do so, just for mentorship sake, quote unquote, whatever, that's dubious. But even if it's for that reason, and they vetted him thoroughly, fine, give a 1-year, $4 million to Rondo. If he doesn't work out midway through the season, cut his ass. We have Kentavious Caldwell Pope. That's it. So what are your thoughts on Rondo real quick?
Yeah, Rondo I was super down on, but again, it's when you hear these rumors about like, oh, Rondo's coming, it's like, God damn it. Because you're thinking in your head, like, we have this $17 million chunk of change, and Rondo, he's obviously not worth like even a 1-year overpay for that much, but you figure like a 1-year overpay is going to take a significant portion of that, if not all of it. And so for me, I was just defaulting to this would be horrendous, because if we're paying Rondo that much, we're going to feel much, much less justified in waiving him if things start going bad. We're going to feel much less justified in not playing him significant minutes. I was getting a little bit worried that if the guard situation wasn't going to work out, then Luke was going to play Rondo and Lonzo together, which I wasn't super high on. I think would have been kind of a disaster. So the fact that we now have this shooting guard who is going to guaranteed give us like 32 minutes a game. We have this 19-year-old point guard who we are going to ease into probably 30 minutes a game average by the end of the season. There's only so many more minutes left to go around for Rondo, especially if we keep Jordan Clarkson for some or all of the season. So if we're going to sign Rondo for like $4.3 million, which is the room exception, which is what we have left to offer now, I'm totally fine with that because it's so low risk. It's like whatever. They play this guy 15 minutes a game. I'm cool with that. Like he can keep the Lonzo like energy going when he comes off the bench. He's lost like I'd say more than a step defensively, but he is still a competitor. He'll give us some veteran leadership. And as long as he doesn't totally clash with Luke, big deal. But I think I saw some Medina tweet, or I think it was Mark Medina tweeted, they're still not totally sold on Rondo, so I think they're going to continue to explore their options. And again, now that they've locked in one guy in Kentavious Caldwell Pope, it's just like they have so much flexibility to just sort of wait and see what else becomes available.
Yeah, so after a pretty tumultuous summer for the Lakers and wondering what exactly is up their sleeves and all of this like mumbo jumbo cap space ghost stuff, it's nice to finally get some concrete things going on. And this is not even including the Alex Caruso sanity going on, where we could end up with KCP, fine, keep Rondo, but also Caruso as a backup there in case the Rondo thing doesn't work out. And all of a sudden, we kind of got a squad here, and I'm very excited to see the potential of, I've never been more excited to see a 33-win team, but 33 wins could get us to the ninth seed, and get it out of the hands of Boston, get the pick out of their hands, especially because the East is so bad. Yeah, we might get it to ninth, and who knows, even more so. So I guess before we get into the cap stuff to end the show, what exactly outside of, actual play does KCP present? Because for me, I think you touched upon it a little bit, but this just opens up a world more of possibilities and flexibility for the Lakers. They can do a better job assessing players. They can take more time doing it. And given that they had to already kind of squeeze themselves into this thin hole of trying to get out from under Dang, Jordan Clarkson, possibly Julius Randle, because his cap hold is 12.4. Now they have another asset in KCP who they can look at and say, okay, do we want to keep him over these guys? Do we want to keep him over, Zubats, Nance, etc., and free up cap space that way? Now they just have better competition in general from all the guys. And at the end of the day, they can say, okay, who balled out the most and who do we want to keep? And I like just having that option open for them. We have a fallback plan once again. Also, if let's say the LeBron James and Paul George thing doesn't work out, and let's say KCP actually lives up to even more than we were expecting and turns out to be, I don't expect this to happen, but what if he turns out to be a 20-point scorer, 3-and-D sort of guy, And LeBron James and Paul George don't work out, but we're like, oh, we got KCP. Let's sign him to $20 million, He's on the lower end of the max scale anyways, so again, fallback plan, I don't think it's going to happen, but at least it gives you a fallback plan. Whereas if the Paul George and LeBron thing didn't work out, we got nothing. So I like the options. And at this point, do you think that it's going to be between KCP and Julius Randle in terms of who the Lakers are looking to keep? Because we've been talking about all the cap machinations, and there is a possibility where the Lakers could keep Julius Randle and just trade Dang, Clarkson, and maybe use Zubats and Nance as assets with those guys to ship them out for nothing. And then Julius Randle would stay on. But now with KCP on board for 17.7 million or 18 million, his cap hold next year is going to be 21. It's impossible to keep KCP and Julius Randle and then have Paul George and LeBron both on the same team. So do you think it's between those two at this point?
I 100% think it's between those two. And I think one interesting angle that we're kind of dancing around here is KCP is represented by Rich Paul, who is LeBron's agent. This would not be the first time, mind you, that LeBron has got a teammate paid via Rich Paul. Tristan Thompson, his current teammate on the Cavs, is also represented by Rich Paul. And if anybody remembers after the Cavs, I can't remember when Tristan exactly signed his extension. I want to say it was after they lost the first time to the Warriors. But I don't quote me on that. But the point is, at some point, there was all this like stuff coming out about like, oh, LeBron runs the Cavs and Tristan Thompson's part of his like team, and he's putting pressure on the Cavs to like give Tristan Thompson a lot of money. I don't know what offers were realistically available for KCP, especially because he entered the free agent period at such a random time. Like, I think we we broke it down today. I don't know if you tweeted this out, but we talked about it, and it was, I think 6 teams could have offered KCP $16 million or more. Mm-hmm. And of those 6 teams, we were the only team pretty much that needed a shooting guard, especially if the Nets intend to use D'Angelo as a shooting guard next to Jeremy Lin. Like, we don't know what they're going to do there, but it was pretty much us and the Nets.
Yep.
And we didn't necessarily have to just go all out and be like, here, 1 year, $17 million. We could have, like, you know, played a game and like done this whole song and dance and gone through that. No, we kind of like went in and just said, hey, look, this is the max we can offer you. We really like you to come here. And I can't help but think Rich Paul is thinking in his head, okay, well, if KCP is here and, you know, maybe they can't promise anything, but look, if we're going to hypothetically in our dream scenario, we end up signing LeBron James and Paul George. We already have Brandon Ingram on the team. We already have Nance and Kuzma, who are like some young forwards. We need guard depth, arguably much more than we need power forward depth. So in terms of keeping, when it comes down to keeping Julius Randle versus keeping a guard, you know, 2 similarly aged players, but one guy does something that just we need so much more. Both guys are going to be bench players in this hypothetical 2 max scenario. So in a way, you're kind of overpaying a bench player, but I would much rather overpay a bench player in a position of need. You know what I mean? A guy who can come in off the bench and just be a defender, or in a small ball lineup, just be a defender. And I definitely do think it comes down to that. And we can run through the exact numbers if you want to, but I think there is a scenario where, you know, maybe KCP, you know, takes like a little, keep in mind his cap hold. Let's just get into the numbers and I'll give you more of my take.
So I think what you were about to get into is his cap hold for next year is going to be around 21.5 or 21.6, right? But because the Lakers have his rights or whatever, they can negotiate a deal with him below that cap number and save a couple million, which would be huge because like we said, there's a thin line the Lakers have to walk here with trying to get LeBron James at 35 million and Paul George at 31. So any amount of dollars they can save, they can save. So right now, Kentavious Caldwell Pope is making 17.7. I don't think it's necessarily out of the question to renegotiate his deal to a 19 or $20 million multi-year and save about 1.6 million in cap space. Is that what you're about to get to?
That was kind of what I was about to get to. I was going to go even lower, though. I was going to, even lower than that. More than what he's making now, but because we can theoretically offer him more years, but like, so just without going into too much detail, because not everybody's looking at the numbers that we're looking at right now. If we keep Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Larry Nance Jr., Josh Hart, Thomas Bryant, I guess in this scenario, we would trade away Kuzma and Zubats. Okay, but let's say we keep all those guys that I just listed. And with KCP's $21.5 million cap hold, we are sitting at cap commitments of $45.4 million approximately, which would give us, if the cap is $102 million, that would give us $56.6 million in spending power. And keep in mind, to get LeBron and Paul George both on the max, we need $66 million. So we're about a little bit under $10 million short. If KCP, we re-signed him to a multi-year deal at $18 million per year, which I think is very reasonable.
I think it's $2 more million. Yeah.
It's more. Yeah, exactly. It's more per year than what he was offered this year. And we could even do like a 4-year deal, like whatever. We could figure that out later. But that adds $3.5 million more to our spending power, which puts us up at $60 million in spending power. And then you're $6 million short of your ideal plan. And that's where the like LeBron and Rich Paul scenario comes in. LeBron and Rich Paul are not just like, this is not just like an agent player relationship. These guys are friends. Like Rich Paul is from Akron. He's like 36. He's like barely older than LeBron, and he's only an agent because he's a lifelong friend of LeBron. Like LeBron was like his first client. So, and he's built his entire career. You know, LeBron, if there's one thing we've learned of LeBron over the years, he takes care of his friends. I'm not saying he's going to take a $6 million pay cut so that we can keep Kentavious Caldwell Pope. I just think he is going to see if he can make it work. You know what I mean? And if it comes down to that, there is a scenario where we could still keep Kentavious Caldwell Pope, and still get our two quote unquote max free agents like max caliber, but maybe one or both of them split a pay cut. It is possible. You never want to bank on that stuff, because you never want to bank on like, oh yeah, well these guys are going to take a pay cut because they're going to get too lit and they're going to get too excited about this and they're just going to do it. Like, you never want to bank on that, but given the Rich Paul and KCP and LeBron connection, I just can't help but think like, LeBron is going to be playing for maybe 4 more years, but Rich Paul is going to have a career presumably as an agent beyond LeBron's career as a player. So LeBron, throws his friend a bone, gets KCP a nice 4-year deal, and just sets him up for even more money in the future, because if he balls out on a team with Paul George and LeBron going deep into the playoffs, by the time this contract's over, he's going to be 29 and he can still get one more contract, So
right.
It helps everybody.
And then can you also bring up the point that LeBron and PG may not necessarily also sign like a too long of a deal, because the Lakers can essentially make them whole if they re-sign with them. The Lakers just need their bird rights, right? So I don't know if you know the specifics of how that would work, but maybe LeBron and PG sign for less money for the first 2 years and then have a player option or something the third year. And the Lakers could essentially make it up to them once the next contract down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And there any of those things is possible. We don't know. I want to say that, yeah, maybe LeBron just signs a 1+1 deal for $30 million instead of the full 35.7 that he can get, right? Mm-hmm. And then he re-signs for the full max next year. Yeah, that's definitely possible. Not ruling that out. But then you get into like this weird, that's effectively what he did with the Cavs, right? He kept signing these 1.1s so they would like retain some spending power, and then he would just opt out and re-sign, opt out and re-sign. And I don't know. Pincus is, unless you have more specifics, I'm assuming Pincus is going to be running through all kinds of stuff like this as the summer progresses. But yeah, that kind of thing is also definitely possible. Again, I don't want to bank on this kind of stuff, because as fans, it's so easy to go down this rabbit hole of like, okay, well, because of this and because of this and because everyone's going to get excited now, everyone's going to take less money. Like, we're not the Golden State Warriors yet. I'm not going to bank on everybody taking less money. So my goal is to figure out how is it going to work given the money that we do have.
Right. And I think, just to go on this like a little bit shorter, I think Paul George may have more incentive to do that, because I think after a year or two, he enters that 7 to 9 year veteran range, right, where he can actually get that $200+ million super max that Chris Paul got. I think it's an under 37. I forgot what the exception is, but it's essentially like an under. Yeah.
So what? Yeah, no, to add to your point, if he signs a 2+1 deal, after his second year, he can opt out and he'll be eligible for the 10-year max, as opposed to right now where he's in the 7 to 9 band, because he's like an 8-year player or whatever. So he might very well do that and then re-sign for that $35 million per year with max raises that not Steph Curry, but Chris yep. Paul is going to sign that, and other guys in that 10+ range. Pretty much the deal that we assumed LeBron was going to sign, a 4-year, full 35 million max. So that's another angle. Like maybe Paul George does something like that. So in that sense, maybe he won't care so much if he takes a little bit less for his first years. You could argue that. I don't know if he'll care.
Yeah.
So we just
but main point is too that we have to keep in mind that if LeBron James and Paul George do intend to come here, they're also probably very smart and attuned to the fact they have to build out a team somehow, and if you already have a guy like KCP there, don't waste him and just say, well, just give me all the money and we'll just keep the 2 rookies and the other random rookies who make $1 million and that's it, and just sign veteran minimum guys. I think there'll be, I don't, like you said, we don't want to assume too much, but you'd hope that at that point that they would be a little bit more willing to do so and be a little more smart about it. But anyways, yeah. I just wanted to make one last clarification. So in the cap rundown that we just did where we keep KCP, obviously Luol Deng is gone, Jordan Clarkson is gone, Julius Randle is gone. And the reason why we also have Larry Nance and Zubats gone in this scenario is I think inevitably, just because of the way these guys' contracts are structured in terms of Jordan Clarkson making 12, Luol Deng making 17, and then Julius Randle, even though he's only making like 4 this year, he's going to be paid next year a lot of money, that I think it's going to require attaching Larry Nance or Zubats or both of them to any of these players to get them off our team to have expirings come back. I don't think it's going to take like a future first rounder. Like I think the first we can offer is 2020. I think it's going to take like Luol Deng and attach Nance and the 2020 first. And there you go. We get an expiring coming back and we get all that Luol Deng chunk of change off our books. And then on the other end, to get Jordan Clarkson off, I guess there could be a team that could just take Jordan Clarkson's 12 million and give us back nothing, but it might be more amenable. We might even get a better asset back if we trade Jordan Clarkson and Julius Randle together, and we get expirings for that. And then there are other ways to make this happen where if a team doesn't necessarily want Jordan Clarkson or Julius Randle, maybe you flip Julius Randle mid-season if he's doing amazingly for a first round pick that another team might want instead, and then you attach that to Luol Deng and then trade him away for nothing. So I think that's the reason why Deng, Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance, Zubats, and Julius Randle are not in these estimates, because a large chunk of those guys, if not all, will have to be traded away in our opinion. So just to go over it once again, Ingram 5.8, Ball 7.4, KCP 21.5 cap hold, but if we re-sign him to 18 million, then that saves you 3.5 million. Kuzma 1.7, Josh Hart 1.7, Thomas Bryant 1 million, and then you have 7 empty roster slots of cap holds for 850,000 each. And then, like we said, cap commitments 45.4, or I guess 49 now that KCP has signed for 18 million, and the Lakers will have approximately 60 million to spend, 6 off of the LeBron Supermax and Paul George dealings. So that's how we got to that. It's possible to keep KCP. For now, it would probably be best to just see him as a rental and see what happens as the season goes along between the race between Julius Randle and KCP. I'm just glad that there's a race to begin with, and we could have some really competitive basketball for the Los Angeles Lakers coming up. So, yeah, man, I'm hyped. I'm good. I guess, do you have anything else to add on the cap KCP stuff?
Yeah, I want to say a big shout out and thank you to Danny Ainge for gifting Avery Bradley to the Detroit Pistons, paving the way for us to sign Kentavious Caldwell. Thank you very much.
And also big thanks to Sean Marks for taking on DeMarre Carroll. Crazy contract, and already having Karis LeVert, D'Angelo Russell, and Jeremy Lin on the same team, to the point where adding Kentavious Caldwell Pope on a 5-year, $85 million contract would make no sense. So there you go as well. And I guess lastly, to close the show, Paul George finally made it to OKC. He also said some stuff to Lee Jenkins. This is going to be pretty short. I think the only quote of note that Paul George said to me was, the Lakers aren't there yet, but that is matter of fact very true. So I don't know what your takeaway is from the Paul George Lee Jenkins thing of him saying that, his desire to play with the Lakers is overstated, because for me, right before he said that statement, he said, it's every kid's dream to lead a Los Angeles team to victory, because I was a Lakers and Clippers fan growing up. I adored Kobe Bryant. And then he went on to say, but my desire to become a Laker is a bit overstated. So what are your thoughts on that?
So my thoughts are, besides that statement where it's like, now isn't the right time, or I can't remember exactly how he phrased it, now isn't the right time, or they're not ready, or whatever he said. Before that and after that, he sort of paved the way for his actual, eventual trip to Los Angeles, because he said that thing about it's everybody's dream, like he said, it's everybody's dream to play for their hometown. He also said something like, things change fast, and if somebody else signs there, you know what I mean? I can't remember his exact phraseology.
He literally said that, if somebody else signs there, I may want to.
If somebody else signs there, I may want to sign there too. Wink, wink, Space Jam 2, LeBron. You know what I mean? It's like he might as well have been wearing a Space Jam t-shirt when he said that, in my opinion, So it's like, I'm not going to read too much into it. And I actually do. Look, let's, first of all, 2 things. Besides the obvious, like, oh, well, what's Paul George supposed to say? Exactly. That's one obvious comeback. What's he supposed to say? He's going to say, like, he's excited to be in OKC and this is where he is. You know, he's not going to say anything about any other teams. But besides that obvious, what he's saying is actually literally true. If the Lakers, for some reason, this plan with the grand scheme with LeBron doesn't work out, Paul George is not going to come here by himself. Okay, our two max plan is going to be complete bust. He's going to have to get somebody else who's going to have to agree to sign as well. That part of it is true. So it's like he's literally just saying things that are true. And so that's why I have no real problem with it. It doesn't really make me nervous. Because in my mind, we are going to get two guys. So all of that stuff he said is like effectively negated because he gave himself like very clear outs in this speech. And then like next year, everyone's going to point to this and highlight that line where he said like, oh, if they get somebody else, and then it's going to be the day that he and LeBron both agree to sign.
Yep, I 100% agree. Last point, what did you think of Ruso Mania? Alex Caruso, 23-year-old dude from Texas A&M, looking like a 40-year-old virgin. But balling the heck out on a day where we were all disappointed that Lonzo Ball wasn't playing, Kyle Kuzma wasn't playing. We weren't going to get the Fox Ball matchup of a century. Instead, Caruso goes out there, 19 points, 9 assists, leads the comeback, has that crazy alley-oop, white on white alley-oop dunk to Travis Ware. And I mean, the rest is history. I think for me, that was all it took to say, give this guy a training camp invite, have him be the third string backup point guard. He's 6'5", he's crafty. To me, he looks like a mix between a taller Steve Blake and Nick Calathis. I don't know if anybody remembers Nick Calathis from the Grizzlies, but he used to play for Greek as well, and he also had like a receding hairline and a bald patch on his head too. But he was a solid dude who knew how to handle the ball, and I think Caruso is a little bit more flashier than those guys as well. He has a little huertas in him, but because he's so tall and big, he can, I guess he can see over guys even better. So what are your thoughts on Caruso?
Caruso, effectively the same thing as what you said, essentially the same thing as what you said. I was on the phone with Alan like maybe 30 minutes or 35 minutes before the game started, and I told him Alex Caruso is the worst player in Summer League history. And I don't know why I said that. I think I was just frustrated and because none of our players that we drafted were playing, and I was just trying to be extreme and, be a jerk. But I said that, and then he comes out and completely balls out. And at first it was kind of funny to me, like, oh wow, look at this guy. It's like when the nerd, is all of a sudden the best player and makes a couple of good plays, and it's kind of funny. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute, this dude is actually a fantastic. Who is he? And then I started reading into him. And this is a 6'5" point guard with a 6'6" wingspan who's known from college. He went to Texas A&M, not a bad school. He's known from college as being a ball hawk defensively. Mm-hmm. And he, he shot 36% from three in college. But in the D League, he shot 40% from NBA range. So he's clearly improved his game. He doesn't make some of his passes were just fantastic. And if you look at some of his highlight reels, he has some pretty ridiculous passes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's he's not like Magic Johnson or something. You know what I mean? He's not like that. Most of his passes are very steady, like normal passes. And that's why I kind of like the Steve Blake comparison. But he manages the game. I think he has upside as like a third string. Even they have these two-way contracts now. Mm-hmm. Maybe give him something like that. But in my opinion, you can never have enough defensive potential in your backcourt. And this is something that we have not been looking for. It's just so refreshing because we have not been looking for this for such a long time. Like, we're so focused on offensive players and just basic stats, and that's what it always felt like. We signed guys like Mozgov who put up pretty good. He can score the ball and dunk it and do stuff like that, but what is he going to give you defensively? It just felt like there's no consideration of that end of the floor. And now it feels like we're sort of considering that end of the floor. Otherwise, KCP wouldn't have gotten a 1-year balloon payment offer, in my opinion. So Caruso brings those things, and I'd like to see him get that third point guard spot. If we find a backup point guard who's a veteran, and maybe Caruso won't get a ton of minutes, but if once we're like a 25 games under 500, we'll throw him out there, and our backup point guard can like move to the end of the bench or whatever.
Yep, agree. Nice diamond in the rough find for the Lakers. Good on their scouting team once again, finding these random gems. And Caruso, his last 3 years at Texas A&M, averaged like literally an identical 9 points, 5 assists, which 5 assists under 28 minutes played is really, really good. And 2 steals a game, like literally 2 last 3 years. So like you said, defensive ball hawk. So yes, all of a sudden things are looking up. We got KCP, we got Caruso, Rondo, whatever, it doesn't matter. KCP is all we need, and this is funny because, at the beginning of this week or whatever, actually no, I think it was last week, KCP liked that random tweet of a Laker fan telling him, KCP coming to the Lakers, LA, and he likes it on Twitter, and look, 99% of the time, a like tweet means absolutely nothing. This time, it meant everything! KCP, Kentavious Caldwell, hope. And there we are. So with that said, thank you guys for joining us on this emergency Lakers Legacy podcast, celebrating the KCP signing and everything else. There's actually a Laker game happening this weekend or tomorrow as well. So there's that. But wow. We're all pretty lit. Please follow us on Twitter at Lakers Legacy Pod. Please also rate and review us on iTunes, because the more ratings and reviews you give us on iTunes, that's a percentage bump up on KCP's defensive analytics. So his analytic percentages match the eye test. So if you want to shut up the analytics only truthers, then please rate and review us on iTunes. So there you go. All right, Tommy, I will let you go.
All right, later.
Hey, you down with KCP?
Yeah, you know me.
Oh yeah.